What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Growth Grit Grind podcast. My name is DJ Shirley, the owner of Speak Loud Group, and today I have a special guest with us. I have Carrie Lindsey from Carrie Elle, and I'm excited for her to be here and tell you a little bit. Look, we've had a dance studio, Carrie. That's who we've had. We've had a hydro mulching company. Who else have we had so far? We had my episode, which was like the launch episode. So we've had some very different businesses, and we haven't had one even remotely like yours. So I'm excited to dive into that. So as I mentioned, this is Carrie Lindsey with Carrie Elle, and Carrie, tell us a little about what Carrie Elle. What is it? What is that you guys do?
Well, ultimately, it started as a website, as a blog. I would even say it started as a mom blog when that was a big thing. And it evolved into products, line of products, physical products, and different types of marketing services. It's really kind of done a lot of different things over the last 10 years. But ultimately, it always has been and always will be a blog with resources for not just moms anymore. It used to be very mom centric, but resources for anybody. So free resources you can download, recipes, content, just a lot of content.
So I'll say you're the resource. You're the plug for all of it, all of the things. Okay.
All the things.
I love that. I love that. So when you were sitting back, and I don't know what this looks like, you can walk us through that. How did this idea even come to you? Where did you have the idea of going, I want to start a website or a blog or both that is about, initially you mentioned moms, that is for and about moms. I would assume that would start with you being a mom yourself.
Yeah.
But how did it all get started? Where did you have the idea?
It did. Okay, so I actually started my first blog in 2006, and it was on Blogger, and it's out there somewhere. It's before I had kids, but we won't talk about that. But I've always, my whole life, loved to write. So I would always have considered myself a writer. And so when my daughter was born, I quit working full time. So I'd been working as an insurance agent in Dallas full time, and then all of a sudden I was home with these two kids, and I was like, now what? What am I going to do? And so I picked up kind of the blog that I had started a couple years ago and just sort of redirected it into more like parenting focused and just kind of the things that I personally was struggling with at the time, which, having two little kids, that's a lot. So it was very much just a reaction to me needing something for my brain to do when I left the corporate world. And it was a fantastic outlet. What I wasn't expecting was it was also going to connect me with so many people. It's such like it's such a online, you do it by yourself kind of industry, blogging and websites, but actually there's like this huge community of people who are also doing the same thing. And I was able to tap into all those people in that network over the years. And that's been the unexpected, I guess, side effect of it. But yeah, it just started because I needed something to do and I like to write. Like that is that simple.
That's, Ashley Bledsoe said something along the lines of businesses are typically born out of desperation or kind of necessity or desire. And yours was a little bit of both. Like you had kind of a need for something to do and to, give you something to, kiddos, you need something to pull attention to, right?
Right. And I always joke about this, but this is like a very true story. Is so when the kids were little, so I had a 2-year-old and a newborn. And so it was like impossible to do anything. And I had the types of babies that you could never put down. And so I would literally be sitting there like with Claire in a baby carrier, like standing at the kitchen, like bouncing her to sleep and writing, I'd have my laptop up and I'd be like, just get one paragraph. Like if I can just get one paragraph done today, that's all I have to do. And so it was like that level of like literal baby steps that really started it.
That's awesome. And so did you, as you started it, like it just started as a initial, you made your first post, you working on the website, you're getting going. When was the moment that you saw either something went viral or you had a, crazy interaction on, or what was that moment to where you realized that there was that kind of entrepreneur or business side or potential even? What was that moment like?
So I think it kind of was an organic, gradual thing that happened. So as I was doing this on my own, like in the background, just writing, I was still using a free Blogger platform. So I didn't have like my own website really even. It was just putting everything up on Blogger. And I was reading other blogs as well. So I was reading a lot of other blogs, and I was realizing that these people were monetizing their content, and they were getting paid by brands to create content around their brands. And then I also started to learn more about advertising, that people were making ad dollars from people coming and reading their content. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll take this a little more seriously. And so when Claire was probably like 6 months older, so that's when I got the Carrie Elle domain, and I got a real website on WordPress, and I started building it out. And it felt like really weird at the time because I didn't really know what direction it was going to go. I kind of thought like I didn't want to be a mom blogger forever. That wasn't like my path. And I always knew that wasn't my path. So when I was like trying to pick out a name for my URL, it was like, I didn't want it to involve parenting or motherhood or any of those things. And so I was able to think forward about that, but everything else was just kind of like me reacting to the moment and what was happening. So it kind of was a gradual shift to where I was like, oh, I like to write. Oh, I can make money doing this by myself. So that was a great actually realization to realize that I could.
Where did that realization, was it just from the network or from, and every one of us do things a little bit differently depends on the kind of environment or industry that we're in. Like, was that just you being a part of that community and then finding out that people were making money, or were you researching, like, was there YouTube, University of YouTube, finding out that you could make ad dollars on it? Or how did you come across that discovery?
I wasn't paying attention to YouTube in 2011, that's for sure.
I
still don't pay attention to it. I'm still not watching it. So I don't know. But what I started learning was when I was trying to get more involved in it. And I started reaching out to other local bloggers. And it turned out that one of the blogs that I actually read a lot, she lived in my neighborhood here in Wiley. And I had no idea until one day I saw her post. I've been reading her since when I lived out in the country, and we moved to Wiley. And then I was still reading this blog, and I didn't even know she was in Texas. And then one day I saw her post a picture of her kid at the same park that I go to. And I'm like, whoa, that's weird. And so by chance, she happened to be offering like for a nonprofit organization. She had offered in a silent auction a chance to like have a consultation with her. And I won that. Okay. And so then she gave me some like really solid advice for how to get it started. And the biggest thing she told me the biggest takeaway was to get dialed in with my local blogger network. Now it's changed and now it's much more like influencer centric, but at the time it was find your local bloggers. And so I got super dialed in with that network, which then got me dialed in with the right conferences, the right brands, the right ad networks. It all just kind of like slid into place very naturally.
Right. No, and I think that's, so your kind of steps to really launch. I mean, and everybody has different steps. There are people who are thrown into things that they inherit a failing business or a successful one for that matter. Then there's some that just, jump in and build it, kind of scratch their way up or kicking and screaming. Sometimes yours was, a little bit different. Like you were trying to find something to fill your time and give you something to do and some level of purpose and all the things that we could, we had the kiddos. But then it was that gradual kind of organic, is that as you were just doing what you were passionate about, you found out that there's paths and opportunities to start seeing where did that, I guess, was there a moment in there, or was it after, like after you saw that you could generate revenue and you started implementing some of those things, whether it be with working with brands in particular or working on the AdWords on your own site? Was there a certain moment to where maybe your husband went, wait a minute, like we've kind of got something here? Or was it continual, like kind of gradual?
It was gradual, but also I do remember one moment in particular when I wanted to buy a ticket to this blogging conference, and I was trying to explain it to Charles, my husband. I'm like, no, I'm going to go and I'm going to learn about blogs. And he was like, what? Like, really? Like, what is that? What? And so I think there was like, I kind of had to prove the proof of concept a little bit, but like, I didn't even know what the concept all the way was at that point either. So I bought this ticket, I went to this blogging conference, and I came back with some really good connections. And I think like right away after I decided I want to start making money doing this, like I did start making money very quickly. And so I think that it was easy to see that like this was a good path for us to go down, for me to go down.
Sure.
So there was definitely that moment of like, oh, this is working for sure. But then when I added the products, it was kind of the same experience where, and the reason I added the product was because as I started blogging and I was writing about all these different things, what I was really getting the most joy from was like creating and making fun things, cute things. And so I would make these printable meal planners that people could print out at home, and then they could plan their dinners for their family for the week. And the more I was doing that and learning that and getting into that, the more I liked it. And so that's the direction that the blog was starting to go, even like way back then. It wasn't really me telling parenting stories anymore. It was really like, how can I make something that you can come and get for free on my website, and like it helps you, and then I get traffic from it, and that helps me. And it was like
Right.
that's kind of where I was going from early on. And so once I went down that road, then I was like, well, I wonder if I could sell physical products too. Like, why not? And luckily I had that attitude of, well, why not? Because actually, if I had researched it beforehand, I never would have done it. It was a lot.
That's
I
the way
never
it goes
would
with
have.
most things.
Yeah, I would have just been like, yeah, no, that's probably not for me. I'll keep everything digital.
Right.
But yeah, we
And so
learn
that
these things
sounds
as we
like
go.
your kind of go to market strategy, being that you were gradual and you had these
Yeah.
like layers. Like in the beginning, it's an outlet for you, it's something you're passionate about, and you were doing really the same things. From what I'm hearing is you're really doing the same things even from the start of like Mom Blog. You were providing real world insight to some of your own experiences, but trying to be helpful to others dealing with the same experiences. But then you fast forward as you begin offering solutions that you had maybe dealt with through your own life, some of those printable things, the free things. But that was kind of
Yeah.
your marketing strategy, was come get this free thing. But then now you're tied in with me on my blog, and you're giving me traffic, which also pays me. Even though you're getting this free product, your end result is there's some dollars hitting my bank account because of that. So correct me if I'm wrong, that kind of sounds like that was the marketing strategy in the beginning, was just if
I
we can
mean,
deliver
there
something to
was
get them
no
over.
marketing strategy. That sounds great the way you say it. There was no marketing strategy.
Stick with
It
that.
was
It
like,
sounds
I'm
great.
just going to keep reacting to what I'm just going to keep reacting. That's sort of what I did for a long time, was I just reacted.
Well, you
And
did something
so,
right. I mean, for you to be
yeah.
able to make that progression, you did something right.
I did something, but it was very like, okay, this week I'm going to write about XYZ. Now, I'll tell you where I was strategic and still am strategic is I do try to write about things that are relevant. And so, I
Sure.
mean, if right now, Christmas, it actually, for me, my biggest time of year, my biggest traffic and product sales, and we're doing products, is always the first of the year, because everything I make is very based on goals. And
Sure.
so everybody cares about it at this time of year. So, and I also have a lot of Christmas content. So December, January, February, I see a lot more traffic than I do for the whole rest of the year. So
Okay.
with that in mind, I always am trying to plan, like right now, I know it's Christmas time, so we don't like to think about this, but I'm really thinking about like maybe February and what the end of January is going to look like. So that's kind of where like my brain is going. And I do get a lot of website traffic from Pinterest. So I try to, people on Pinterest, I don't know how much you use Pinterest, but people are pinning things months
I have
in
some
advance.
experience.
Yeah, you know what
with
it is.
Pinterest.
You've heard of it
Yeah,
before.
I do.
So that's like, I would say the only area where I've ever been like really strategic, unfortunately. I know
Right.
that's terrible to say, but I've
No, but it
always been
sounds like you
reacting.
found that out. You found that
Yeah.
out though. I mean, and I think in your space a bit that you do have to be a little bit reactionary, because it's based on things, especially say in the beginning, your blog based on being a mom, you would experience something. And because you had an experience, you were able to then go write about it and tell other people about it, and good, bad, ugly, indifferent, whatever, you were able to tell the story. And then for them, it wasn't either they were able to laugh at it because they had already been through it and knew exactly what you're talking about, or you were able to give someone some helpful advice for what they may eventually go through as a younger parent or whatever. But then going forward, you were creating things based out of either your own necessity or someone else's. And then, so yes, it was reactionary, but that was almost kind of the nature of your business. You almost had to experience something to be able to then turn it into something.
And that actually is a really good way to sum it up, because everything I've ever made after that point, like every product I ever put out for sale, everything has been something that I have personally needed in my own life, or enough people ask me for it. But usually it's stuff that I need. It's like my own areas of things I'm not good at. And so everything that I make, people they assume I'm an expert at meal planning and budgeting. And I guess I am now, but like, it's not because I'm a natural expert and I'm showing you the
Yeah.
way. It's because I'm awful at those things. And these helped me be better at those things. And they
Yeah.
will help you too, because if I can do it, you can do it. And that's kind of where all the products ever came from.
Yeah.
Was
No, I mean,
giant
and
gaping
I
holes
think
in
that there's
my
nothing
own
wrong with that,
web page.
especially with what you're
Yeah.
in, and then the business model that it is. I think that became the business model. It had to be.
Yeah.
It just kind
Yeah.
of developed itself. What
Yeah.
did you, I guess, say in the first year, and it could be multiple, but really the first year, they're always the most challenging. Again, yours is really different. I'm glad we're able to have the conversation because it gives people perspective. There's a lot of stay-at-home moms that maybe have aspirations of doing exactly this. They want to be able to go and blog, or they want to be able to do something like that because it's such a big space now and so many brands. And I don't know how much it's changed, and you can touch on that if you want, but it's changed, in my opinion, so much over the last 10 years. I think more and more brands have become even more accepting and looking for those opportunities because they know how big the space is. I think 10 or 15 years ago, a lot of brands didn't even know that it was an option, that I could find just regular people that had a reasonable following and it can move the needle for us. It doesn't have to be the, Kim Kardashians of the world that have, yes, they have millions of followers and all the things, and it's definitely going to move a needle, but there are plenty of people out there that can hit great numbers through a blog and through a website that we can sell our items or get exposure for our brand. I think it's changed a lot. But I mean, what did
Yeah.
you, in your first year, I guess, going into that, what were the challenges? What can people expect in that first year? I mean, off the top of my head, just looking, outside looking in, it's like just the stick with it, right? Like that's,
Yeah.
to me, it seems like just making yourself sit down and write content and do some things, but you speak from your own experience. Don't let me steal that.
So the craziest thing was like realizing how much I didn't know. And so when I did my first product, so this is kind of like the blogging story, but it's a little bit funnier. So it was in 2014 and I wanted to make a meal planner because I was Googling for a meal planner. Like I had this planner in my mind that I wanted. I wanted to be able to have my grocery list or my meals for the week. And then I wanted to be able to rip off my grocery list and take it with me to the store and like keep the meal plan, in here so you could like see it and put it out for the family to look at or whatever. So that seemed like a super straightforward thing to me. Like, of course, there should be 100 of those. There was not any of them. There was
Not
nothing
one.
like that. Nothing. And so I thought, well, if I want something like that to get organized with, probably somebody else does too. So it was my birthday, and everybody gave me, my parents and everyone gives me money for my birthday, and so I had like $400 or something. So I went on Amazon and I bought a binder, like $100 binder to like bind. I bought some plastic coils. I bought a laminator, and I ordered like $100 worth of perforated paper, the paper that I wanted, and it was like stacked this big for like $100. It was ridiculous. And then I had like, to be super clear too, this was 10 years ago. So like my design skills and capability were very, very minimal. And there was no Canva, or Canva was like not where it is today. So
Sure.
there was no, like, I was trying to learn Adobe or Illustrator. And I was trying to like I had these covers in my head, but zero skills to put them onto like what I wanted to look like. They were awful. They were the worst. I'm embarrassed about them now. I actually feel like I'm like cringing and I feel a little bit of physical pain when I think about them. But I made them. That was the thing that I did. I made them and I put them up I opened Etsy shop and I threw them up on Etsy. And like 4 hours later, the first one sold. I did like 3 or 4 of them. The first one sold, and then the next one, like they all sold out within a couple of days. So what I didn't know at the time was that most Etsy stores, something like 75% of Etsy stores, it's a really high number. Don't quote me on that number, but it's really high. They never sell a single product. And so like
Really?
so I had like 4 products gone like within, 12 hours or 24 hours or whatever of listing them. And so then again, like I reacted to that. So I was like, Charles, look at all these people bought these. Like we couldn't believe it. Like that just random people on the internet bought these designs that were not even like pretty to look at, but they were super functional. And so I again reacted to that and I just started making more of them. And then it just kind of like snowballed from there. And now you go online and if you Google meal planner with perforated grocery list, there's 50 different options.
Sure.
But you can still find mine. It's still there.
And I have to kind of tell this story because I just told you, I guess last week we were getting ready to go on a cruise, and I don't even know who asked the question. We were looking at the rooms. I mean, we had booked our room well in advance, and they always show you what the room itself kind of looked like. And then we knew we
Yeah.
had like a little balcony thing outside. But we asked, I think it was Laura, my wife. She asked, she was like, well, how big is the bathroom? Like, how big is the restroom? Like, for us to get ready and all those things, is there going to be plenty of room in there? And I said, I've never been on a cruise. I have no idea. I was like, well, let me go look. And so I go and I Google like the name of our boat and, restroom, bathroom size. Like I Googled a couple of different variations. And what initially kept popping up was like, it just kept showing the stock room photo. And I was like that you could see the door of the bathroom, but you couldn't see the actual bathroom. And I was like, nope. Then I added in like bathroom inside photo. I don't know. I added some kind of description. And the first picture that pops up, it's like, there it is. Like, that's the photo. I click on it and I open it up. I'm like, okay, look, here's the floor and there's a sink and the shower's over here with a little pool curtain. Okay. And then I show Laura and I'm like, look, this is, it's pretty, looks like pretty good size. She's like, yeah. I happen to look down and it's on carrielle.com. It's on your blog. Like it was a photo that you had taken and posted
With
as like
intentionality. I was very intentional when I took that picture because I know what it's like to not be able to find the bathroom.
You're exactly right. But it was the funniest thing to look down and go to find this useful photo, exactly what I was looking for. And mind you, there was a few of them that had some photos of it, but most of them were like poorly lit. They weren't a great photo. This one was like the top result one too. And I was like, how hilarious. Number one, that we were on the same ship. Number two,
right.
what, 10 years apart or whatever it was.
Bathrooms on that ship.
Yes, but we both had bathroom questions about the breeze. But that it's funny, but that's, again, that goes back to kind of exactly what you were doing. So your challenges kind of facing in that first year was just adapting, essentially, like seeing and doing something. Like you created that product and then you went, okay, this works. So now we need to come up with new ideas, but also facilitate.
How do you scale?
We need to make more. Like we need to make more because people are buying them. And so did y'all, outside of just working more hours, how did y'all facilitate that? I mean, did you just start putting and, launching everything that you could on Etsy, good, bad, ugly, indifferent, or what was your strategy there of like, how did you keep up with it or navigate? Like maybe the more I put up, the more we'll sell.
Yeah. So that's actually a really good question because I, again, was like, I was thinking ahead for sure. Like, well, I can make this, I can make that, I could do this, I could do that. People are buying all these. But the reality was like, no, you got to be able to make the products you're selling right now. Like, what are you going to do? So we bought a bunch of, I was making them on little home printers, like my little home printer back here.
Yeah.
So we bought 2 more home printers like that. We had them literally in the master bedroom. There was like printers along the back wall. And I would go in there and I'd sit on the floor and laminate all my covers and we'd just be printing, and they print so slow. And because the paper is perforated and I print all the way to the edges. And so it was like, I don't know how much paper we lost when I was doing these, from it just like, come out and be like ripped
Carrie,
on the perforation.
The trees.
I know. Stop. So we got more efficient. So after we finally moved it out of the bedroom into an office space downtown. We did that for a while. And then we outsourced to a big printer, and we went to the big printer. And so here's the nature of my 2 most popular products that we made. They're very expensive to make, even at a large trade printer, because everything, I wanted it to be like, everything was super high quality and like it had to be just perfect. And so, and like the way the perforation was, and that I used all the color and the expensive lamination that we use, and we use big metal coils. So like everything was expensive. So no matter where you make them, these products cost a lot, and there's a lot of components and they're very tricky to make. So we outsourced and we did that, and that was very expensive. And then like we're still selling them, and I didn't like outsourcing because we were limited. We could only make like one cover design. It wasn't easy, to make a bunch of different options. So then we ended up getting a big printer and moving into a bigger space, and then bringing it back in again and making them again ourselves, but in a different environment. And so it was really interesting. Like when I look back on it, at the time, it just felt like you're at the beach and there's just like tidal waves hitting you constantly. Like you cannot come up for air at any point.
Just rolling.
Yeah. You're just like barely catching a little breath, and then something knocks you over. And that's how it felt for years. It's not reassuring, but
No, but it's part of that. You kind of led
Yeah.
into that next question of like just growth and navigating growth. I mean, that was what seemed like I mean, outside of your natural blog, gaining more traction just over time, and more views, ad revenue, things like that. And then brands paying you to do things. You had found this niche of like, we're selling product on this website. So, I mean, the natural progression was we need to make more, and we need to make
Mhm.
more options, more of them, all of the things,
Yeah.
and keep
All
kind
the
of
things.
innovating.
And then people
Um,
start asking you for more things. They're like, well, what
yeah.
about this? What about that? What about
And you
this?
can
And
only assume in that role that as your followers that are kind of your people that they purchase from you or they're following you for a
yeah.
reason, that if they have that problem and they want that product, there's probably your people probably look fairly similar, I mean, at
Yeah.
least for needs and wants. And so, yeah, I mean, when someone comes up and asks you for a product, you go, I mean, if one person is asking for it, more than likely there's others.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, I know for you guys to, I mean, I could imagine like, hey, we're doing it ourselves. We've outgrown ourselves. We're going to a printer. That makes life a little easier because someone else is doing it, but I still have to monitor it and oversee it. And then to go, to reduce cost and to have better control over the final product, like we're going to bring it back in house. Yeah,
Mhm.
that feels like a tidal wave situation, but
Yeah.
that was you kind of navigating that growth of figuring out how do we scale it up?
Yeah. Yeah. It was a lot. It was good.
Yeah.
It was good. We learned a lot of
How
lessons.
many on just a spitball, like you probably you may have even blacked these moments out like that,
Mhm.
but what was your looking back? I mean, in a single day, what were you guys putting out, or in a single week maybe is a better, fairer question, but what were y'all, I mean, like what would the order volume, eventually get up to? I mean, like, and I know that it's may even could sound, oh, it was 5 orders, but if each one of those is 30
Yeah.
pages and different things, like that's a
That you
lot.
have to hand coil and right. It's a
Yeah.
lot. So actually what our biggest like jump in product sales came when we offered our second product, which was a journal for the 21 day fix diet and workout plan. And it's
Okay.
because if when you with the 21 day fix, which is just like a diet plan, but they don't provide, or they didn't at the time, there was no resources to like track your food. So the whole thing is like you have to track your food, but there was terrible resources for tracking your food.
Wow.
So I
Okay.
thought like I'm going to make this journal and we're going to see what happens. And so I made that journal. I sold a couple like right away. Same thing. Like people were looking for it and there was nothing. Now, again, there's a million things on the internet to buy, but there was nothing at the time. It was so new and we got ahead of it. And some people got a hold of them and then shared them in like these giant Facebook groups.
Oh,
And so I
okay.
remember like the first day when we first started selling those, they'd barely been for sale. And we were getting orders for like 100 a day, which is a lot. And those products, this is confusing because we had so many different pieces and products because of the nature of those we did outsource pieces of it. So like we
Sure.
couldn't originally do the coils at first. Eventually we could do everything. But so that was like a huge jump for us, like 100 a day for us, Charles and I, and like we had a couple of contractors that would come into, that was a lot. So most
Oh
days
yeah.
weren't like that. But and then again, like the nature of planners, or it's very, very seasonal as well. So starting in September, people are looking for their next year's planner and they're
Right.
buying planners from September through like February. And so we would
Okay.
have a ton of product that we would be like moving, and then we would have nothing for like hardly anything for the rest of
Yeah.
the year, which was like very challenging to having a really seasonal business.
Yeah. Yeah. Did
So
you, I mean, was the goal to supplement like, from the physical product side, was it to supplement like during those lulls? Were you trying to use I mean, I'm sure you're using the blog at all times, but was that kind of
yeah.
the goal, was like, as we let the blog and the website kind of pick up some of that? Did you
They
ever shift that
would.
focus? Was there more blogging during the slower times, or was it always
Yeah,
fairly consistent?
probably. And they would, but like the other thing that we would do is I try to come up with products that were not seasonal based. So things that you
Yeah.
would start like like we had a gratitude journal for years. So it was really nice. And people would, that's something you can start at any time. is a
Sure.
gratitude journal. And so that wasn't like, seasonally. And the meal planners ended up being seasonal because the first ones that I did, or the first like real nice quality ones I did, were in October. And so every year I would refresh them in October. And so people were really religious about using them. And so they would need a new one every year. And so that's where, and that still happens even now, when we're not making them at all right now. But like people still are always in October, like, I ran out of my meal planner.
I need a new one.
New one.
So
Yeah.
what has, I guess, fast forward a little bit to current state, I mean, I know there's a lot of different things you do with a lot of different brands and entities, but fast forward to now, I mean, how does your business look different from what you've described up to now? I mean, I'm sure some of the things are there and some of the things are still kind of rocking and rolling the way they've always been, but what has really changed for you guys, or how have you pivoted, shifted, whatever that may be, whatever you may have worded that in your own scenario? What does it look like now?
So COVID for us was like the Friends episode where they were going like pivot, 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 pivot. That's how I felt during COVID. So what happened during COVID was that we had 1 week where nobody bought a single product. So the week the shutdown happened, like nobody bought a single thing and our employees couldn't come in. So like, it wasn't even like, oh, come in and get ahead. It was like nobody was coming into the office. There was nobody buying anything. I think everybody just didn't know what to do. And so that was a lot. Like for us to not sell anything for a whole week is a lot for a business of our size. That was like unpleasant. And then people started buying things. So I pivoted. So what I did was I had at the time online digital subscription service. And so I offered it really inexpensively. And it has like everything you want, you could just print out at home. So I offered that super cheap. And a lot of people that were normally buying things from us or that were trying to help keep small businesses afloat, like a lot of people stepped up and they purchased that subscription from us, which was like huge. So what we learned though during COVID was that a couple of things happened. First of all, the supply chain and the cost of making the products went up a lot. And so like I was saying earlier, the tidal waves all the time, it was like all of a sudden you went from tidal waves to like super low tide and there was nothing. And so we were standing there like, okay, now what do we do? I have like all of this bandwidth. We have all this time and energy. I have all these products still that I've been working on for all these years and all these things that I need to like sell and move and keep making, but what are we going to do? So when we had a chance to kind of breathe a little bit, what we ended up doing was outsourcing it all again, like taking it off our plates and like stripping down all the stuff that we offered. And instead of doing like, 7 covers for every meal planner, it was like, okay, we're going to go back to 2 covers and we're going to not offer this product because not enough people are buying this product. And so we kind of like started stripping it back and then we started outsourcing to a local print shop. And that was a lot more pleasant and manageable. But ultimately, like the last time I tried to we also make day planners every year. And last year when I went to make the day planners, the cost, it increased about 25%. And when you make everything here in America with American employees, it's not like a 25% cost increase for us. It was just too much. You couldn't do it. And so we just stopped doing it. So I do have, like a few years ago, there's a big planner brand that licensed the meal planner from me. And so they sell the meal planner on Amazon and in boutiques and shops and stuff. So like that's still available, but we kind of just scrapped all the products and I thought I would be sadder about it. So I'm not, because it was such a hustle. I do miss like the launches and giving people new products and seeing people be excited about having these useful tools. I miss that for sure. But I've just redirected it all into the website. And so now there's even more things that are available for free. So you have to like print it yourself, but it's free. It's pretty. It's yours if you want it. So
is that where obviously getting into this, it was initially like your creative outlet. Is that where your creative outlet is now, is still just, being able to go back and offer those free products or to be able to put a blog post out, or is that where because that's what it seemed like, is it was always meant to be that creative outlet for you to be able to share moments, but also fun things and helpful items. And is that kind of what it's become now?
Yeah. And I guess I left out like one huge thing, which is that 5 years ago, I wrote a book and that book was like also based on content.
It's a pretty big thing.
Yeah, I forgot that. I also wrote this book and I had been creating lots of free vision board content on my website. And so you could go and download free vision boards, free templates, all kinds of free things to help make a vision board at home. And so a publisher reached out to me and asked if I would write a book about vision boards. And so I wrote that book about vision boards and have never really stopped creating content about vision boards. And so
Yeah.
I've just put a lot more of my energy into that piece. There's like all these different silos. And so I've been putting a lot more energy into that. I do vision board classes all the time. I have been doing those for years. So just throwing this in at the end, like this whole big piece of what I've been doing. But so I'm pretty like on Carrie Elle, pretty hyper focused on that right now. And that is where most of my Google search is, people looking for vision board content. And so hopefully when people come to the website, like they can find anything they want. And that's what I'm always working on, is filling in those holes. Like, what are people Googling and not finding at carrielle.com? And then I'm going to make that for them. And so that's where I've been putting a lot of my like creative design type energy into. Is that, yeah.
What do you see on the horizon for Carrie Elle? Is it going to, do you feel like this is the path for a while, or do y'all have some things in the works where you are wanting to innovate or create or go back to any of the roots or move beyond the roots, or what do you think is in the future?
That's a good question too. So right now I am heavily invested in getting this vision board and manifestation content going, or it's already going, but keeping that going and teaching more vision board classes and workshops locally or wherever. And maybe even adding like a corporate aspect to that, like teaching vision board workshops to corporations.
Cool.
So I'm kind of going down that road with that right now. But so I feel like I've had Carrie Elle for so long, like that's never going to go anywhere, because it's very like easy and pleasant and brings me a lot of joy to just keep updating it and keep putting content on it. So that won't go anywhere. So what I do also is I do offer some of my services to other businesses and brands locally to help with, I know I just said like I had no marketing plan and it was awful, but to help others with marketing. But actually I'm pretty good at it. So I can help other people with marketing plans and creating content for other brands. And that's what I've always done at Carrie Elle, is created content for other brands, like the Carnival. That was actually something that I did with Carnival Cruise Line. So yeah, the bathrooms, like that's why I went and did that. So I could show people traveling with little kids what the bathrooms look like and other things.
Very important.
Yeah.
And you've done a lot with, I know you mentioned like you have your book, but you did something with Pinterest recently, right? Or a Pinners conference. I think that I remember you telling us about, where it was based on vision board. I think was that what that was based on, right?
Yeah, I did a vision board workshop. So the Pinners conference is like, it's not actually Pinterest, but it's a conference of creatives, basically, where you can come and you can do anything. It's like all the best of Pinterest. So the things that people are pinning, there are creators that are coming in and teaching classes on all the different things that you can find on Pinterest. So it's like bringing Pinterest to life. And so I've been doing their conferences since 2016, I think, since the first one came to Dallas. And I go do different workshops on different topics. And this last one, we did vision board workshops, which are so fun, actually.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I think that right from writing the book, it's again, I think that your hindsight or outsider looking, I guess you could say, is that you've along the way have found different pockets of passion, is probably the best way I could say, is that there may have absolutely been some moments where you're like, I don't passionate at this at all anymore. You completely lose. You're like, I don't want a passion at all with this anymore.
I don't want a passion at all about food. Like I had a food blog. Like it was a food blog. That is what it was. I got the most traffic. I made the most money food blogging. But like a couple years ago, like I don't like cooking. I don't like it. So why am I making a food blog? Again, it was back to like, well, if you can do it, other people can. You don't like cooking, so here's easy recipes that anybody can make. But it was not bringing me joy, like terrorizing my kitchen to get some food posts out, which is unfortunate because that was like where the money was.
But I think that you in that position that, anyone that happens to watch this or is listening to it that is interested in this type of business, I mean, I think for them, it's weighing those options. Like you're going to be, if you're only in it for the money, and you want to go down these roads, that there are people who will pay you to generate content based on food or restaurants or cruises, or there's all these opportunities, and you can, don't want to make it as simple as just pick a lane and everybody will hire you. I mean, there's certain things that you've got to do to build a following and things like that. I mean, again, Carrie said a lot of it from the very beginning of just community and being involved and going to some of the conferences and just learning. But I think that you have to, at a certain point, decide who you want to be. You know, you have
Yeah.
to decide like where I don't like that. And that's what you did. Like you were making good money doing the food, but I'm not passionate about that. And I don't like the mess and I don't have to clean up, you know, coming over here and generating something about a vision board that I'm actually passionate about and that will actually help other people, you know, beyond just a meal. It brought you
Right.
more passion. So, I mean, I think you just eventually, sometimes in the beginning, I think especially we have to sometimes do the things that we're
Yeah.
not as passionate about or
Well,
care
that's how
as
you
much
learn what
about.
you like.
Yeah. Yeah. You wouldn't
So
have known otherwise. You wouldn't have known otherwise. And along the way, you make some revenue from it that you need to make, especially early on. And then you find you're able to get a little more selective and figure
yeah,
out when you grow up, you know, we're all still
right, right.
continuing to grow up. So you figure that out.
And you make
What
some good
would you
connections.
say? Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Either way, even through that, you make connections of either other food bloggers or other people wanting to get into food blog. You're able to, you said that from the very beginning. So that's got to be useful.
Yeah.
What would, if you had then kind of in closing, what would you, if you, it's a question I always like to ask, but if you had one piece of advice to give to an entrepreneur, a wantrepreneur, as I call them, the ones that are just getting started or have a
Yeah.
dream or vision, current business leaders, future business leaders, if you had one piece of advice from your own experience, what would that look like? What would you tell them?
So I get this question a lot when I go to events, and I always say the same thing, and I will always say the same thing, and that is to be consistent. So it does not matter if you're doing the best job. I mean, if you do the best job you can, but it does not matter if you're the best one out there. It doesn't matter if you're still working out all the, stuff behind the scenes. It does not even really matter that much what you're putting out there. It does to you, but like it really doesn't. Also, what matters is that you're showing up and you're consistent. And that's when I was sitting there like bouncing a baby, writing blog posts, like one paragraph at a time. It was like, just do it. Like
You
just
found
whatever
time.
it takes to do it. Just get it
Yeah.
out there and then keep doing it for a long time. Cause then it gets uncomfortable because you're doing it for so long and you're not seeing results and you want to quit. But like everybody else that's in the same situation as you is starting to drop off then. But so you keep going, you just keep doing it. So that's what I always tell everybody is just be consistent.
What
Stay
have
the
you
course.
said? I feel like you've also said before, done is better than good or something like that.
Yeah,
What is your
done is
saying
better
that
than
you say?
perfect.
There you go.
So done is better than perfect, and that is coming from a like super perfectionist in my own life. And
Okay.
there have been many, many times like where it has been 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm crying because we printed something and it doesn't look the same as it did on my computer because the colors don't print the same as they do on my laptop. And I'm like, nobody will buy this. It's crap. Throwing things. This is
And sure
awful.
enough, somebody buys it, right? And sure enough, somebody buys it,
Nobody
right?
cares. Nobody knows what's in my brain. So that's what that's what I've had to learn. Like nobody knows what I'm imagining. They just see the finished product and they're like, "Yeah, cool, that's great," and they buy it. And so, it's done is better than perfect, and that is probably always the case. And that's
Yeah.
coming
No, I mean,
from someone
that's,
with deeply perfectionist issues.
yeah. No, and it's something I think to a certain degree, every business has to learn and everyone sitting
Yeah.
in our seats has to learn and figure out is that, I mean, I am too. I don't care if it's coming down to editing a project that's being worked on or allowing one of our editors to work on that project and then
Yeah.
seeing it and going, and you just see little things and then you could have delivered half of the quality of what it actually came out to a client and they would be blown away
Yeah.
because they're not used to that. They're not used to having a video production like that or animations or whatever the case may be. But we have a tendency to just be super perfectionate about, like, I just
And
want
you're
this
your
to,
worst critic.
you have a vision in your head, and you
Yeah.
go, yes, no, and you are. And I think we all are absolutely, especially from those of us that have that creative element to what we
Yeah.
do is we have the vision. And if it didn't come out the exact way the vision was, or, we're so hard on ourselves that way. But I think you absolutely have to sit back and learn at some point, either I'm going to be this small, I'm going to do this amount of revenue and this amount of things. Or I'm going to learn that, yes, there is quality levels to maintain. Like you never send out something, I wouldn't send out something that's broken or anything like that,
No, don't be
but
sloppy.
not be sloppy, but going out and delivering the level of quality that should be delivered, but also not over critiquing or overthinking even your own team or anything like that is key. And you've said that so much that I was like, I don't know what piece of advice you're going to give, but I'm going to make sure that we mention that too, because
Yeah.
every time you've said that, I'm like,
That
it reminds
is
even me.
perfect.
I mean, we're not just
Yeah.
reminding ourselves, you know, sometimes you say it and it reminds
Yeah.
others around you. So that's the majority of my questions. I think I got everything out there. Of course, I want to say thank you for being on and for coming on, taking a few minutes out of your day. And we especially want to give a special shout out to Charles for coming in and being IT support before we started to get everything working for us. We want to say thank you
God
to
bless
Charles.
Charles.
Yes,
My
absolutely.
personal
I
IT
need a
department.
t-shirt. I need a t-shirt that says God bless
God bless.
Charles.
Hashtag
Yes.
God bless Charles.
Yes, that's what I need. And I'm
Yes.
sure I probably have an office mate that would take one as well. So we
Yeah.
need to get
Okay.
those
I can
going.
think of a few people that might need those.
Yeah.
God bless Charles
Absolutely.
shirts.
But Carrie, thank you for being on. I appreciate it. Tell people where they can go follow you. We've mentioned your name a lot, obviously, but tell them where exactly they can go if they want to check the blog out.
CarrieElle.com and Facebook and Instagram, Carrie Elle blog.
Bingo. That's it. Carrie, thank you for taking some time out for talking to us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Got it.
Okay.